feature side is the truth. The feature side is historical accuracy, because what we do here at Gaslit Nation is not look at these events in isolation, but look at them in a broader framework of how these institutions and certain individuals who've been in various offices for a long time, like Merrick Garland, have operated over decades. And you find not just a pattern in some sort of abstract sense, but direct ties between complicit individuals and the agencies of accountability that are supposed to protect us and that are refusing to do so. So when I dig into Garland's past and I find out he was mentored by Jamie Garelick, the lawyer of Jared and Ivanka, a woman who's implicated in, honestly, the majority of major state crimes and scandals of the last 25 years, including 9/11, the 2008 financial collapse, the opioid crisis, a lot of oil spill related climate change disasters. I mean, I'll be here all day. We've gone through this. When I find something like that, that gives me an indication of what kind of person Merrick Garland is and what kind of people he works for. When you look at the DOJ as a whole and you see people like Bill Barr recurring as attorney generals in order to cover up state crimes, then you know that there is something wrong at the DOJ on a structural level. And we know, of course, that when Trump got into office, one of the first things he did was purge the FBI of the few people who were actually looking into the Russian mafia. I'm honestly skeptical of those people because, this problem has been there for so long and they clearly did not do enough to, stop Russian mafia infiltration of U.S. governmental institutions, or Trump wouldn't have gotten in there. But, these were the most well-informed people. They're the most likely people to take this apparatus apart, and he made sure to get rid of them. So this is just common sense and historical literacy. These are not like our opinions. This is not us taking a side. This is us simply clarifying to you what has happened. And if you understand precedent, then you can make accurate predictions about the future, which is why everything that we said about Merrick Garland going back to the spring of 2021 has proven accurate, and everything that these folks who just say, let them take their time, ignoring that running out the clock is one of the key ways that autocracies win, they have been wrong. And part of this is because they have invented a history for Merrick Garland, and it's a history of lies. They have claimed, for example, that he was the prosecutor in the Timothy McVeigh case, Oklahoma City. He was not. They claimed he was the person who caught the Unabomber. He was not. These are not things to debate. These are not sides to take. These are just lies and the truth. And we told you the truth, and the truth is painful, but you need to know it in order to understand where we are moving forward. All right, next question is from Amanda, who asks, will you please talk about the Palestine, Ohio train crash, chemical disaster, and why it's being buried by the mainstream media? The second part of my question, I'm noticing that hashtag Ohio train disaster is trending on Twitter, but is overwhelmingly coming from Christo-fascist Q contingents. Is this a symptom of the legacy media and political elites' continuing neglect of affairs in, quote, flyover country? Yeah, I think some things have changed since this question was asked. There is mainstream media coverage now. There was not in the beginning. I think there was an attempt to bury this, and I think that attempt rested on the supposition that most Americans don't care what happens to people in East Palestine, Ohio. And I'm glad to report that that's not the case, that you see concern coming in from all over the country, some of it rooted in empathy, some of it in an understandable form of self-interest in which we simply want more environmental regulation and political transparency so that more of these atrocities don't happen. We just want to make sure that we're safe. Which brings me to the second part of the question, which is about the hijacking of these causes by bad actors. And, this is something that happens a lot. And I think it is very important here that people follow their moral compass. And if someone is attempting to hijack a cause by hitching their bandwagon to it, like we're seeing, not just sort of the more fringe Q contingent. But, Fox News, for example, is covering East Palestine, and they're rightfully criticizing Pete Buttigieg, criticizing Biden, saying a lot of the same stuff that Andrea and I said last week on our episode, East Palestine, Ohio. And that doesn't make what we said wrong because an asshole also said it. They might not be saying it from the heart. They might be saying it in a manipulative fashion because they see everything in partisan terms and they want people to, hate the Democrats. We have brought up that Democrats and Republicans are to blame. The blame for this falls upon multiple administrations and, of course, also falls upon, corporations as well. And, the frustration with that also genuinely runs across the political spectrum. And one thing I don't like to see is that once a cause is hijacked by assholes, you see people back away from the cause itself. I would maybe back away from the hashtags and from certain sorts of rhetoric. I mean, it's always good to put things in your own terms anyway. That just shows that you're, thinking for yourself and you have something of yourself to contribute. I don't like memes. I don't like this kind of mindless repetition, but, abandoning people who are contending with an environmental disaster just because the right wing or people like Jim Dory and other Kremlin sympathizers are seizing upon it, that's wrong. You should support people in times of trouble because there are people in times of trouble and they need help. And it's as simple as that. So don't fall for this bullshit. I've seen civil rights causes abandoned. I've seen voting rights causes abandoned. I've definitely seen the effects of the overturn of Roe v. Wade abandoned because of this, because bad actors seize upon the narratives, but real people are hurt. And I do think that this particularly applies to people that live in areas like where I do, like in the Midwest, in the South, in industrial cities, in kind of rotting industrial, post-industrial cities, because we're more likely to be abandoned anyway. And then you also have a Republican Party that's very eager to capitalize on that feeling of abandonment. That's what Trump did in 2016. And that makes it, if the way you want to view this is through a partisan lens and through elections and whatnot, which I don't think is really the morally best way to view it, but it does matter. If you want to be strategic about it, then help people out and show them that you care about them and help them fight for their rights. And if there's environmental groups or human rights groups or other groups on the ground in these states already, throw your money there. Don't give them to the DNC or to candidates or whatever. Help out these local grassroots movements, the people who actually know the area and are trying to protect each other. That is true solidarity, and that builds trust. And you need to have political trust in order to, win, quote unquote, in a meaningful way. And, my definition of winning is everybody has the rights to which they're entitled to and is able to pay their bills and have the freedoms that we are supposed to be able to have in the United States. This includes the freedom to breathe clean air and to drink clean water.
And the next question is from Andrew. Are you encouraged at all by Biden's recent State of the Union speech and post State of the Union messaging? As State of the Union speeches go, I think Biden delivered a great one. I think he clapped back at an audience of trolls. I think it's disturbing that it's now normalized for the fringe far right, the Nazis, the concentration camp guards like Marjorie Taylor Greene, the insurrectionist, to so casually troll the president of the United States now. That used to be a really shocking event back in the very recent past. So that was the big sort of takeaway, is that unsurprisingly, following a violent coup attempt on our democracy, led in part by Marjorie Taylor Greene, the insurrectionists are defiling a tradition in America, the State of the Union, by trolling it, when before that would get you reprimanded by both parties in the House and forced to apologize. Now it's normalized. But I think Biden held his own, and I think he shined when he went off script. And I think he did underline the stakes in that speech and gave an important shout out to Ukraine. And they had the Ukrainian ambassador there again, as they did a year ago. And so for what I was looking out for in terms of support for Ukraine and whether he was running for president or not. And it's clear that he is, and I want him to win in 2024. He's that I'm really worried about what happens if it's not Biden in 2024, if God forbid something should happen to him and it's somebody else. And I'm worried of the Republicans winning, whether with DeSantis or even, God forbid, Trump eking through, because Merrick Garland is who we say he is on the show and so on. From what I was looking out for, I was encouraged. But again, it's America is such a far right country that we need to do more to claw out of this black hole and do more for people and their quality of life and stop and reverse the trend of the average lifespan in America being on the decline as it has been year after year in recent years. So there's a lot more we need to be doing. Biden is great for Ukraine. I would like to see him be stronger towards the insurrectionists and obviously environmental policy and passing more executive orders on that regard, because that would move industries and force industries to change.